What can you negotiate in a job offer? By the time you're done watching this video, you're going to discover some of the things you never even dreamed of negotiating for your next job offer. First, we're going to look at what you need to even show up to negotiations. Then you're going to be able to arrive with a plan in place the next time it's time for you to negotiate for a position. And lastly, I'm going to share over 30 items you can negotiate for your next job offer. 30. Let's go ahead and get started. First things first. To negotiate, you have to be willing to walk away. You might be thinking, what in the world? You have no power in any kind of negotiation, job offer or otherwise, if you don't have a point where you will walk away. That's even true in personal relationships. If someone knows that you will not walk away, there's absolutely no motivation for them to give you what you're worth or for them to shift their behaviors, changing something in the workplace or home. If you're not willing to walk away, then you have no business at the negotiation table. Does that sound harsh? It might, but it's still the truth. Otherwise, you're negotiating, but you have no gas in your engine. What this means is if you're negotiating for a job offer, know what the minimum is that you will accept and at what point you'll say, oh, this isn't gonna work. Now you might be thinking, what if I'm interviewing within my own company? You can stay in your own position or you might have to jump someplace else, but there has to be a walk away. So again, a walk away could mean walking away from that particular company, or it could mean staying where you're at because maybe the additional workload or responsibility for what you're interviewing for isn't worth what they're offering. So maybe you'd rather be in the position you're in right now. But again, you have to be willing to walk away in any negotiations in life. You're going to show up with a little bit more assertiveness and a lot more confidence, and the other party will know they're going to have to bring it or lose you. So now that you know that you're willing to walk away after a certain point, here's a question that may or may not be uncomfortable to answer. What are you worth, really? So if you're applying for a particular position or you're negotiating for this job offer, what do you bring to the table? If you're in sales, it's pretty easy. You can look back and say you generate X amount of dollars in sales a quarter or annually. If you're in HR, maybe you have anecdotes or stories about how you saved the company over X amount of dollars from getting lawsuits because you handled this or this differently. Or maybe you increased the efficiency of your department by X amount, leading to an average value of Y. Whatever that is, you have to know what value you bring to the table and try to quantify it as much as possible. The challenge is that not all job positions are easily quantifiable, or at least you're not handed that number. So sometimes you have to sit down with how much do you get done? For instance, maybe you're an executive assistant and maybe your company actually got rid of one of the other positions of an executive assistant and you took on both roles. Well, that actually goes to show the amount of value that you offer and that you can do two people's roles at once. Maybe you reduced expenses by X amount by absorbing an entirely different role, and you still manage to have an extremely high score on your performance review. So start thinking in terms of not just the value you bring to the table, but how do you quantify that? And qualifying it might be helpful too. If you have certain letters from your boss, or maybe you won awards from your company for different things you've accomplished, those are those qualitative things you can mention where you say, this actually shows that I bring value. But that quantitative, that number, however you're measuring it, it could be revenue, it could be savings, whatever that looks like, make sure you arrive with that number because that is the value you bring to the table. And knowing that number is going to make you show up with a lot more confidence. Here's the question. What is most important to you? Is it your salary? Is it your title? Is it having a flexible work schedule where you can work from home and work? Or maybe you just want to be a remote worker, period. Start to rank and order where your priorities lie. What makes the most sense? I'll give an example. I have a friend who is a brilliant engineer. This person was offered two jobs. One job was going to pay 30% more than the other job. This engineer actually went with a job that was going to pay 30% less because they provided a better flexible work schedule. The team dynamics actually seemed much more friendly, and the boss that he would be working for seemed genuinely interested in his advancement. So for him, it wasn't about the money. He could have been paid 30% more. For him, it was more about the flexible work schedule and the opportunity to grow in a positive work environment. Those are his priorities. You might have different priorities. What is most important to you? Go ahead, take a moment, write that down and rank it. I'm going to give you items that you can negotiate for in your job offer. However, if you want more tips on how to negotiate better, you're going to find that I have multiple videos teaching how to negotiate that go into much more details on the process itself. Go ahead, take a moment, search on YouTube, find those videos, earmark them so that you can watch them in their totality as well. So let's talk about what you can actually negotiate for in a job offer. You ready? Pretty much anything that's legal. One more time, anything that's legal. Even if it goes against their company policies, I assure you, if they want you bad enough, policies are bent and changed all of the time. But as long as it's legal, it is on the table. You would be shocked what people have negotiated for. Even in my own life and my own experience, I've negotiated for things that other people in similar positions never even thought to ask for. But here's the kicker. If you're negotiating for a particular salary and they can't meet your salary requirement or demand, you don't have to just stop there and say, oh, no, not for me, unless money is your number one priority. If that's your number one, that might be a signal to walk away. However, if there's other things that are important in terms of a flexible work schedule or other benefits, well, this is where you have a little bit more power. Because if you feel that you're worth X dollars and they only have 0.75 of X, so 75% of your X, well, now's the opportunity for you to ask for some non-monetary concessions that make up that other 25%. Let's dig into some of the things that we can ask for outside of just salary. So you ready for that list I said where I'm going to give you at least 30 items that you can negotiate for? Hope you're ready. Hope you have a pen ready. We have quite a few to go through. Number one is salary. That's pretty obvious. Maybe they can't afford your salary, but maybe they can give you a little bit of money up front for signing. Next up, bonuses in general. So maybe they pay you a little bit less, but you get bigger bonuses based on performance. Next up, stock options within the company. Maybe you want a little bit of ownership of the company itself, and as you help it perform better, you get a little piece of the action. You can negotiate for your work hours. Maybe you want to work so many hours a week, or maybe instead of working 5 days a week, you only work 4 days a week. We're seeing more and more of that happening right now in Europe. Remote work, meaning that you can actually work not just from the office, maybe you're working from home entirely or part of the time. Vacation time. So you might join a company, they might say on average, our first year people only get 2 weeks, but after being here for 5 years, you get 4 weeks. You can actually negotiate for that. So you can actually come into organizations with that higher number. They might talk about what's standard, but what's standard doesn't necessarily apply to you. We're going in there making power moves. Health benefits. So maybe you want some additional health benefits that are not normally included at your level or for your job description. All you can do is ask. Retirement plans, relocation assistance. Do you want them to reimburse you on your relocation, or do you want them to put you up in relocation housing for a period of time until you find your next house? Professional development. Maybe you want to take additional courses or classes and you want them to pay for it. Job title. Maybe you prefer a slightly different job title. Maybe you think a different job title will make you a little bit more competitive, or maybe the title they currently have doesn't really align with the current duties because they could have been doing a reorg recently. Workload. Yes, you can negotiate for workload. If they're paying you less, you might say, well, you know what? I understand that you're asking me to do this, this, and this, but I think if we shave this one thing off, we can make this work at the salary level. Travel reimbursement. So as you're traveling around for your job, if your job requires a certain amount of travel, how much are they reimbursing you? Maybe they're reimbursing you for a higher point on mileage. Maybe they're giving you a larger travel allowance so you can stay at full service hotel properties versus staying at limited service. Maybe they're putting you in business class versus in coach where you're all crunched up with your legs at the back of another seat. Severance package. Hey, look, you're not trying to leave out immediately, so maybe the severance package they presented you with is decent, but if they don't have the salary that you're looking for, why not try to spice it up and see if you can get a little bit more if you all decide to separate? Performance review frequency and impact. So if they say they do a performance review annually, maybe you want it to happen more frequently than that. Maybe you want it to happen less frequently. When they talk about its impact on your salary, if it's a 3% raise or however much the max is, maybe you negotiate how it actually impacts your work. And maybe you want it to have a greater impact or a lesser impact. Flexible benefits. Memberships like gym and club memberships. Many places of work offer memberships to certain clubs so that you can go out and network with people in that environment, as well as to gyms as well, because they know that keeping you healthy on the front end reduces the number of sick days that you need on the back end. Parking and commute assistance. Depending on the city that you live in, parking or using trains or other forms of transportation can be extremely expensive. Why not see if the company can reimburse you on that? Seniority. Now you might be thinking, how do you negotiate seniority if you're new? Believe it or not, you can. You can negotiate the level that you show up on when you appear. Office space. So maybe you want your office to be set in a different place. Maybe you want a corner office. Maybe you don't want a cubicle. Maybe you do want a cubicle so you can be amongst the people. Whatever that looks like for you, go ahead and ask for what you want. Tuition reimbursement. If they say that they can't offer you your salary, especially because maybe there's some knowledge you don't have or a certain type of degree you don't have, fine. Come in at that lower salary, but have them agree to pay for you to go to school. Childcare benefits, that's pretty self-explanatory. Health and wellness programs. We talked about earlier getting gym memberships, but there's all kinds of programs that companies are now offering. Everything from memberships to do yoga, to having therapeutic sessions, all kinds of extra added on benefits so that you're a healthier employee, which basically means better efficiency and effectiveness for them. Performance metrics. Maybe the way that they evaluate your performance is not something you agree with. Maybe you know that it's better for them to measure your performance in a different way. Negotiate that on the front end. Project ownership. Maybe there's different types of projects you want to be a part of, or maybe you want a little bit more control over the projects that you're working on. That's also something that you can negotiate. Remote work equipment allowance. Now, this was something that was done by some companies, but it definitely became more popular since 2020. If you're working remotely, part-time or full-time from home, you want to see if they're going to reimburse you for things like your internet and all other kinds of remote office items that you wouldn't normally have to pay for if you weren't working from home. Flexible dress code. You know, you've probably noticed that workplaces are a lot more casual than they used to be, but not all of them. Maybe you want to wear jeans on Friday. Maybe you want to wear jeans every day. Maybe you want to just dress differently in general. I'm going to share something with you. So I did a bit of a millennial thing, and that's when I was back in corporate America, back in my early 20s. There was a dress code where you had to wear stockings. You don't know this about me, but I absolutely hate stockings. They itch. I don't understand their purpose, me personally. Now, don't get me wrong, I've had other people explain to me, women who've maybe been around a little bit longer than me, explain the purpose. For me, they're stupid. Now, I'm not saying other people wearing them are stupid, but for me, it's stupid to wear them. My legs are all, for the most part, one color. I shave them. I don't want to wear stockings. They're uncomfortable. And so when I came to work, I was refusing to wear stockings. I remember my boss in HR pulling me aside saying, Crystal, stockings are a part of the dress code. Mind you, I was in sales, I was in back of the house most of the time, and so I just kind of laid it out. I said, well, let's look at my sales track record. This is what I'm selling on paper. This is what the people who were in this position before me sold. I think we can see that I'm doing a much better job. I'm doing a better job because I can focus and I'm comfortable. My question to you is, do you want me to make less money because my legs are itchy, or even look at going someplace else where I can have a comfortable work environment? Guess who got to not wear stockings? This one. Promotion pathway. Oftentimes in companies, they give you this vague notion of how you move up, but you can actually negotiate what that looks like. Okay, so you're saying if I spend 1 year here and I accomplish this, this, and this, the next opening for this level, I'll be considered. So you can actually lay out your pathway with dates or metrics to help you understand what you need to do to earn your way up to the next level. Have it on paper and make that part of your negotiations. Professional memberships. Any industry has professional organizations that are dedicated to continue education for people in that profession. This is an opportunity for you to join those organizations, network with people, and have your company pay for it. And if your company starts to act up on you, you have a really great network where you're likely able to jump ship. Don't tell them this though. Don't tell them this in the negotiations. Paid parental leave. And lastly, paid volunteer days. I have had the pleasure of working with some companies that offer this to their employees. Maybe they get 1, 2, sometimes even up to a whole week where they get to have a paid day off or paid days off so that they can volunteer with organizations all over the globe. The whole point is that the organization is trying to showcase how much they invest in social good, and as an employee, you feel good because you're still getting paid, you're not taking a hit, but you're dedicating time to making the world a better place. You probably didn't know you can negotiate for that as well. So now I've given you 20 things that you can negotiate for during your next job offer. Again, keeping in mind that you want to think about the things that are most important to you, and if they don't come back with those top things, we always want to ask for a little bit more to make up the value, because you're still worth what you're worth. Remember how we looked at what your value is and trying to find metrics for that and looking at it from a quantitative and qualitative standpoint? You're still worth that. They just may not be able to make it all up in money. So speaking of negotiating for the future and having a brighter future, making sure that you're putting yourself in your most optimal position, in the description of this video, you're going to find a link to download a Future Ready Playbook. This is a playbook that I designed for you to help you be more strategic in planning your future, whether we're talking about your individual goals, your professional goals, or even if you own a business, your business goals. Go ahead and download it today.